What's up, you guys?
Welcome back to the Sibling Duo Podcast. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Daniel, and this is episode 2. All right, so I have been at college for a month now, which means Tiffany's been in
Yep.
high school for over a month now. And it's pretty crazy to think, that much time's gone by. It hasn't seemed that long, but a lot has happened. So what are you thinking, Tiffany?
Yep.
How are you feeling?
Well, I guess we're just getting used to this new life, this new normal. But
Yeah.
so now that you've been gone for a month, can you just kind of break up the weeks into 1, 2, 3, and 4 and just explain the differences and what's kind of changed and how, the first week is probably very different than once you get into it. So just explain.
Yeah. Okay, so week 1 was very kind of just weird and abnormal. Now looking back, obviously there's the welcome week stuff, and we had our podcast a little bit after a week and a half, or it was 2 weeks at that point. And so it's a very weird time. Obviously it was very slow at the beginning. Classes were very slow. There wasn't much work in terms of my sports. We really didn't have any practices for the most part. So it was very, very weird. And then by the time the second and third week rolled around, you kind of felt like it was actually real again, because you have homework, you have practices, all that type of stuff. And then I would say this week, it's almost become where everything doesn't seem very new anymore, right? It used to be everything's super new, all that type of stuff, and now it's kind of it's more of a rhythm now. So I feel like when you hit this point in college, and it almost happens in February too in high school, I feel like it's September and February. It's this 1 month slump, as I call it. It's kind of this weird point where all the hype of the beginning has kind of died off, but we're kind of just in the middle of 2 points, right? And so it's a lot harder, I feel to find new people to become friends with, unless you're really intentional at this point. And then it's also just a lot more just work and just stuff you got to do.
Yeah. So how has now that kind of that first beginning of the easy schoolwork is over, how does the schoolwork compare to high school?
Well, it's very different. It's different types of work. In high school, it used to be a lot of assignments, and you usually have a ton of assignments every week to do.
Yeah.
And it's all this random stuff. And now it's mostly reading, and then doing reflections of the reading, and then having big tests. It's more grouped out that way, which is kind of weird, but it is what it is. I kind of liked high school, honestly. I feel I liked how it was broken up better, but yeah, just the college way.
That sounds really nice right now. I have so many just little assignments. I'm no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
you
how
always
has
want
high
what
school
you don't
been?
have.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's been good. I'm actually really enjoying high school right now. So
Nice.
it's been kind of busy though. I feel like I don't have a lot of time just to do
Yeah.
stuff, because it's just I always have schoolwork or then practice. I have practice every day, so just
Same.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's something we're not used to either. Usually we
Yeah.
have it 3 to 4 times a week. So
Yep.
having it every day, how has that affected your body and stuff?
I'd say honestly, I kind of like having the rhythm of having it every day. It's definitely tiring and you're definitely sore and stuff, but honestly, it's kind of fun. And I would say it is harder though, because you have to make sure you schedule time around that. But yeah, it's been great. Really like it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, the first probably 2 weeks getting used to that was hard. And my body almost wanted the break, but now it's kind of nice. The rhythm, you were talking about, it is nice to have it. But talking about your body being sore, talk about the difference of we, for high school and stuff, we drive everywhere and stuff like that. But at college, everything's in walking distance and you don't have
Yeah.
a car. So what has that been like?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is very weird because you don't have to drive everywhere, so you feel like you have a little bit more time like between
Mm.
things. So like there is like a lot more gaps of free time, but it's not like all at once. So it's like harder to like do things in that time, but it is a lot of walking and a lot of stairs. I usually do like 18 to like 22,000 steps a day. I have to go up 3 flights of stairs for my dorm, so I'm like usually 50 to like 75. I've had like way over 100 some days that are really busy flights of stairs. So it's
Wow.
tiring, but
Wait, how many miles is that?
it's usually it's like 10 miles a day is what my fancy dancy Fitbit's telling me. So yeah,
It's crazy.
I know, and it is so sad not being able to drive. I miss driving so much, but when I
Really?
get back, I'll be driving all over Orlando.
Yeah, for real. Oh, what has been like now that you've been in college? What's been like your favorite part?
My favorite part,
What have you enjoyed? Do you like the freedom?
well, I'd say my favorite part, at least right now, is like being around different types of people and kind of hearing people's perspectives because like you don't really anticipate that coming in, but like in class you have like all these like random conversations about different topics, and because there's people from all over the country, I feel like
Hmm.
I'm hearing a lot more different types of like opinions on things that I didn't hear when I was like just in one area. So that's kind of cool. It's definitely
Yeah,
different than what I'm used to, but it's pretty cool. So that's been nice. And yeah, the freedom. Honestly, I don't feel like I have that much freedom because I can't drive. Like I feel like I was like, oh, I can just go anywhere I want. Yeah, but I don't really have that much freedom. Like I can do whatever I want technically, but like you're kind of limited in a sense to like
yeah,
who can take you somewhere or what. But yeah, it's been pretty. I'm kind of used to it now. Honestly, at this point, it's just kind of how life is.
yeah. It's crazy.
It's a weird new normal.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to transition to our new section. We're going to have a new section called our TTT moment, and it's our Tiffany Teaches Theory section of the podcast. So, Tiffany, take it away. What are you going to tell us about today?
All right. So today I'm going to teach you a few things, a few different things. But first, I want to introduce you guys to the circle of fifths. So this is a picture of
Yeah.
it. Um, so basically, this just shows it's like a great visual when you're learning about different keys and all the music theory stuff. Um, but one thing that I want to point out is that every major key has a relative minor key. So it's pretty cool because what that basically means is take, for instance, like a scale on a piano. All the notes in the major key are the same notes that are in the minor key, but what makes it minor is it's starting basically in a different spot. And
Yes.
then from there, obviously, like the chords, it like shifts to that minor key. But sometimes in songs, what they can do is use the minor as like a transition and then create this like really cool sound. So talking about songs, when you if you want to write a song, you obviously start off picking like the key and all that. Or I mean, not start off. Different people have different ways of starting songs, but when we're talking musically right now. So there's this other concept I also want to talk about that is when you're playing a song, um, what we do in the music world is we assign different numbers to the song we're playing, and so why that's helpful is because when you're playing a song, different people can be playing it with a capo or transposed. And so it can get super confusing if you're like,
Yeah.
oh, play F, because that F could not be that if you're playing F, they could be playing a whole different thing. So
Yeah.
what we do is we assign numbers. So if we want to go back to the 1, we're going back to the key, like the home base basically. So basically, we learn different rules in music theory so we can break them. So one thing I want to talk to you guys about is the tonic, the dominant, and the predominant. So the tonic is the 1 and the 6, and those are kind of the home bases. And then we also have the dominant and the predominant. So traditionally speaking, in a song, you would go from the tonic to the predominant, and every time you do the predominant, you always have to go back to the dominant. And then once you've played the dominant, you have to go back to the tonic. Another way that you can do it is you skip the predominant and you go tonic, dominant, tonic. And some songs are just that, tonic, dominant, tonic. But that's traditionally speaking. But like I said, once you learn the rules, you can break them. So traditionally that's how they did it. But now if you listen to any like pop songs or stuff like that, they're doing whatever they want. They go from the predominant to dominant. They do a whole song without even playing the tonic, and you're like, what are you doing? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's just a little piece about the tonic, the dominant, the numbers, and the circle of fifths.
Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. We're going to have some more TTT moments later in the podcast this year, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, so next, we're going to have our music moment. And today, we're going to talk about how music is released nowadays. So, Tiffany,
Yeah.
do you have any opinions on that? I'll add my opinions after, but yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Well, I actually really want to hear your opinion on this, so I'll let you go first.
All right. So, most of the time, um, artists basically are developing an album and they start putting out singles nowadays, which is basically what you hear
Yes.
on radio.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the best songs are the ones that pretty much get hyped up and like promoted the
Mm-hmm.
most. And as those songs come out over a few months or even a year sometimes,
Yeah.
um, those songs either blow up or they don't blow up, or whatever. And then they release an album with those songs on it and like 10 others. And then
Mm-hmm.
they go on tour and then they do the whole cycle again, right? But the problem is, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, is that each of those songs are released at different times in people's life, and then they connect with those songs at different times in their life. So,
Yeah.
like, if you release a song in the middle of a summer, then people are going to listen to that song all summer, and it's going to be like ingrained with those memories. And so when they play
Mm-hmm.
that song, they're going to have these flashbacks to summer, right? But then you put that on an album that gets released at like Christmas, it just doesn't work, right? And so I feel like the only problem with the industry now is that it's like all of the like gems, I guess, of the album are just like being given to you early, and you're like cementing like certain memories with those songs early on. Whereas it used to be where you get this album and it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many great songs, and then the others like, oh, they're kind of cool, but they're not the best, right? We get to
Yeah.
listen to the whole album. You can have more like depth of an album, like you can have things connect. You can do even concept albums. It's just a lot different than how it is today. So yeah, what do you think?
Yeah. And also, now with like social media and all those things, um, artists are putting out little snippets to like kind of, you know, I don't know what the word is, like what's the word for that?
Like tease the
Tease
content,
it,
kind of. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So this has happened to me recently where I'm listening to an album and I'm like, wait a second, I know that already. And so it kind of, like you said, then you think of like when you listen to that first, and it's just like it's interesting. It's like a new interesting way that um the release, how it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I feel like it might help. It helps in some ways where those
Mm-hmm.
songs get like highlighted, and then if it's going radio or whatever, it kind of has more focus. But it is, I feel like, almost in a way harming the artist in a different way, where it's not, the albums aren't as special anymore. Like people can almost pass by the albums, whereas like it's really about like, oh, this is one really good song. And there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. I think people should release singles, but I feel like they should also kind of honor what an album is and like kind of keep that special
Hmm.
and not,
Yeah.
give away all your stuff early, but just kind of how the industry runs, I guess. So
Yeah. It's also kind of cool, you know, how you were talking about like the soundtrack and just how you equate different songs to different times. Um,
yeah,
I remember my grandpa, or our grandpa, sorry. um, we were talking about this one time, and he was saying how he was reflecting on his life and like
yeah,
putting different songs and almost creating a soundtrack for his life,
for
which
his
I thought
life,
was
yeah,
like a really cool thing because like even I mean I'm not that old, and like I can still think back and like remember different songs and
yep,
equate that to a certain time. So that's just like also a really cool idea that like the soundtrack of your life,
yeah,
like not not like literally the soundtrack, like songs of your life. So
yeah. It's insane. Like I was just looking at one of my playlists, and I made it like a couple weeks ago when I first got here, and I was
mhm.
doing it while I did a lot of like conditioning by myself, and I was like, dang, like that brings me back to that exact moment, like where I
Oh, that's
was
so
when
cool.
those songs were played for the first time, and now like every time I play it, it like comes back to like how I was feeling that day, or like the room. It was just like crazy how like those songs connect with you, and so yeah,
Yeah.
it just ties in. It's so weird how that happens to your mind. It's
Yeah.
wow.
And that also like happens, I don't know if you've experienced this with smells. If you smell
Yes.
something and it takes you right back, it must be something with like our senses of like
Yeah.
hearing, smelling, seeing stuff. It's
Yeah,
kind of cool.
I was at Walmart, and like we walked through like the scent section or whatever, and I like smelled this. I was like, wait, what is this? And I like found it was like one of these little like scent things, and
Mhm.
it was for two of the guys that are like down on the first floor. I've been down to their room before, and
Mhm.
I was like, dang, this is literally like, and it brings me right back to like their room, and like,
Oh,
it's
that's
crazy
so
how like just
cool.
like smells can do that. But in soap too, soap. If you ever smell like certain soaps, like, wait, that's my house. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. No, totally like that happens with like different shampoos and conditioners cuz like I change them up that I use and I'm like,
Yeah,
wait a second. And I'm like, I remember, I didn't even remember the brand I used, but smelling it, I was like, oh, that was when I was 10 years old that I used that. It's
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
But,
Man, I hear Madison in the background. I think she wants to be on our
yes,
podcast. It's so sad.
Madison, yes, Madison wants to say hi. For those of you listening, we have two dogs, Barrett and Madison. So give a shout out to them. They're the
Yeah,
best. So,
it's pretty great.
how has that been having to leave them? Is that,
Bro, that's like the worst part. It's so sad because like I get all these pictures from you guys, and they're just
mm-hmm.
like, I'm like, dang, they don't see me anymore. Like, I don't know. I hope
Yeah.
they're like still like love me and stuff when I get back, but I
Oh,
don't know.
they will love you.
I know
Well,
it's just
that
so
is,
sad.
yeah.
I kind of
So,
like abandoned them, but it's okay.
well, yeah, because
I'll
we were
see them
talking
soon.
about how, like, with us, I know where you are and we can talk, we can text. But with them, I mean, they were with us when we dropped you off, but
Yeah,
they still are like probably very confused. So they'll be happy to
yeah,
see you, though. I can't wait for that.
yeah. One thing I did want to say about this first month is like it is, I feel like, definitely a challenging time, especially like if you're going farther away. And I obviously have seen many people before me go to college, and
Hmm.
people are going to college with me in my class right now at different places around the country. And it's definitely like one of those times where it can be really like hard at times too, like either really lonely or like, I don't know, just like
Yeah.
challenging to transition like that. And yeah, I would say like just call people back home too. Like know that you
Hmm.
still have a lot of friends back home, and it's not like you're just all alone. And if you are like in college or whatever, and yeah, just you gotta sometimes just stick it out and just learn through it. A lot of this is just like you're just like learning new things and figuring it out, and it can be definitely pretty hard that whole first month. But you know, it is how it is, and it just you're growing, and we're all learning new stuff at the same time. So
Yeah.
You too, yeah, in high school, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I haven't gone to college, but like hearing different people when we're talking about college with people, a lot of people just talk about how hard that first little bit is. And it's actually kind of crazy. Like
Yeah.
a lot of times people don't talk about that in the grand scheme, but like
Yes. Like no one told me that before I came here. I was like, that would have been
yeah.
nice to know. Like,
Oh,
but
yeah, but then also they like that also shows that when they look back on college, they almost kind of overlook that in a
yes,
sense.
that's true. Yep. So yeah, stick it out, guys. Whether you're in high school or college, you got this. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Peace. Well, next week we can't promise.
Oh yeah, probably not next week. We'll find a time
Yes.
soon enough. But all right, adios,
We love
Tiffany.
you.
See you
We
guys
love you,
later.
fam. See you guys later. Peace.